Yeah, so here we are. It is 8:18 a.m. on another sunny Monday morning. Man, it has been only sunny the last couple weeks. I think we are currently in like a fire warning still. Like in Georgia, we are in a red flag fire warning. What is the weather like? Let's see. I'm going to double check. Yeah, red flag fire warning. Let me show you this. I've never seen this before. Maybe if you live out west, this is something that you may see more often, but your boy has never seen this down here in Georgia. Warning in effect from noon to 8 Eastern today for low relative humidity and strong winds for the northeast Georgia. Maybe that's why it feels so nice out. Yeah, low humidity for us is 52%. Anyway, so this weekend, we had a family gathering. We went to... So I'm going to be getting into new dad anxiety and that sort of thing. That is what this video is about, and we'll have strategies and things we will discuss on that topic. Now, before we get into it, I want to talk about what caused this kind of new dad anxiety. So my wife is 9 months pregnant, literally 36 weeks as of yesterday. So we're basically, I guess it could come this week, but usually anytime now we're 37 weeks until 40 or so. So we're getting close. We're right at the finish line. And at this gathering, family gathering, we had those weed drinks, THC drinks. I asked one of our friends to bring one for me, and it was only 5 milligrams, and I had about half. And man, that sent me into a tailspin. Like not crazy bad. I was still able to function. No one knew, but in my head there was just this mild level of anxiety. Well, pretty high for most people. It'd be high level. For most people, it'd be pretty high level of anxiety that was not going away. And it was there was nothing in particular. Like I wasn't scared of anything. There wasn't really anything at first that I was afraid of or what was causing the anxiety. It was just there. I think largely because of the drink and just the way it hits me. It happens quite often when I do these damn drinks, and that's why I'm like, I'm done with this shit. I'm not doing these drinks anymore. If I'm going to partake in cannabis, I'm going to smoke it like I always do. Not the healthiest thing. Don't do it if you haven't started. But yeah. So when a person is feeling high levels of anxiety, or really any high levels of an emotion, a strong emotion of any kind, whether that be anger, anxiety, sadness. Those are kind of like the three big negative ones that I can think of. And whatever one has taken hold and is really strong, it has a certain energy or feeling to it. Obviously, it's a feeling. And it needs to feed. It wants to feed. You see the world often through the emotional state that you are in. So if you're anxious, you're more likely to have anxious thoughts. If you're angry, things that you normally are okay with are pissing you off right now because that emotion is so strong. So it often will try to feed or try to interpret the world around them through those thoughts or because of that lens of whatever strong negative emotion comes up, sees the world that way, and then you have negative or whatever type of emotion of reactivity back, and then that feeds or keeps that emotion alive. So because there was nothing going on particularly for me at that moment when feeling anxious with this weed drink, it latched on to its anxiety to my wife being pregnant, because her her mom, her dad, her brother, and her sister and brother-in-law were there, and they're all rubbing her belly. We're all talking about it. So then my mind just like made a leap and just started thinking like anxious thoughts towards the birth of our child. And there wasn't anything in particular. It's not like, oh my God, this or that. Like, it was more of just like, oh my God, I'm going to be a dad. The labor and delivery process seems scary, which I know is now that I've had time to think about it, it's like, dude, I'm not doing anything. I'm there to support. I'm there to support. I'm going to hold her hand and be right next to her. I'm going to help her. I'm going to coach her through it. We'll get through it together. I know we will. But in that moment, it was so strong of just feeling like I was alone and, oh, having a baby. And it's like, it was me. Like I was it almost felt like I was the single mom, in that moment of just being so anxious and anxiety making you feel isolated and like you're so alone. And then with these thoughts in my head, because weed also can make your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex kind of turn down. And so I'm just with these thoughts, this high level of anxiety, and I do a lot of fasting. So this drink isn't going through me the way it would a person who eats 3 meals a day. I think I only ate one meal up until that point. So, I was flying and it wasn't going away anytime quickly. So I say all that because even when I came down at night after I had some more food, uh, it almost felt like ran, I ingrained or almost created a little divot in my mind of this new worry. And it's almost like I had an open wound, so to speak, of this anxiety and worried towards the birth of our first child, and I couldn't shake it. And it reminded me, and I was obsessing. I was obsessing about it. I couldn't, like, it was just on the back of my mind. Even if it wasn't in the forefront, like whatever I was doing, it was right next to it. It was right there, and it was just felt like I couldn't necessarily get away from it. And I have had a history of OCD and anxiety, where in my past, I've had a history of obsessing about things, not being able to switch gears, and you kind of just feed that anxiety emotion with the negative thoughts. And it's like I'm aware of this pattern now because I've done so much meditation and mindfulness, but it was like nostalgia. It was like an old feeling of like, yeah, I haven't felt this in a while. And that, even on the surface, scared me. I was like, oh boy, what the hell? Like, I feel like we're going backwards. This is how Alex would react to something 5 years ago. So, long story short, I'm talking way too much. We're about 8 minutes in, and we haven't gotten into the strategies or what we plan to do to cope. So, let's do that. Let me open up the page real quick. Actually, hold on one second. All right, I had to switch things out real quick. Okay, so yes, let's go into some things that I have thought about and want to share to, because being anxious about becoming a new father is completely normal. It's a normal thing to experience. It's a normal thing to go through, and we have some ways to handle it. So the first is exactly that. We are allowed to feel some level of anxiety. It's okay. It's normal. It's a new thing, and it's scary. So I've got this Claude instance up of an AI agent, and we are going to just kind of create a running list of the anxiety coping strategies to go over. So the first one is anxiety and it being normal. Anxiety is a completely normal thing to experience when you are about to have a new baby, especially if you are a first-time dad. This is a completely new experience, so allow yourself to have anxiety there. We don't ever want to say, I shouldn't be feeling this way. When we do that, we are resisting a feeling, and when we resist, things often persist. So that's number one. Cool. All right, so the first thing, normalizing the anxiety is a natural response. Very good. Number two, let's see. The second thing that I'm thinking of right now is this. This isn't about. I mean, it is about me because I'm the father, but at the same time, my wife is going through so much more. And when I put that into perspective and remember this, I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? You just gotta hold her hand and support her and love her and be there and hold the baby and you know feed the baby when she's recovering after the delivery. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing the easy part. And all this stuff, I say it because it's bringing me back down to earth. I think for me, this whole weed drink experience really created like a scrape on my brain, so to speak. Like in the same way, if you were to go outside, trip and fall, bust up your knee, and then you have a mark there, and it kind of hurts. I think that's what this is because up until this point, I was fine. I was okay, and now I'm having the anxiety about it after the drink. So I'm just going to do what I know how to do, and that is go through the coping strategies, reframe this, think about this in a healthier light, so we can kind of heal and accelerate this kind of mental wound or anxious wound, so to speak. So the next thing is number two is keeping in mind that we are not doing the heavy lifting as fathers. That would be our wife who is delivering. We are there to hold her hand, to support, to be there for her, to be there for our new baby, and to be as compassionate and as open and as loving as possible. This is not about us in this moment or situation. Cool. I will say I need to tell it to do a running list. After you give me the new number or the new bullet point, can you have a running list of all the ones before it as well? All right, cool. All right, so then the next thing, let's see. Yes, another thing is the anticipation. That's always one of the hardest parts about anxiety is that it is whoops, it's doing this. Nope. Sorry, it was writing my words down as I was saying it. Nope, don't do that. The next part is anxiety is built upon a future of not knowing. And I've talked about this often of like prediction models. So our brain runs on prediction models, and for first-time fathers, you don't have anything to go off of. It is a completely new experience for us. And so we have nothing to run off to say, "Ooh, what is that?" Like what is there anything in the future that or is there something we've done before that's like this? No. So then it's like, okay, this is new territory. We're entering a dark woods that we don't know what's in here and what's lurking. Well, we kind of do. We kind of know what's to not to necessarily the experience, but we know what's going to happen. We're going to deliver. We're going to be tired. We're going to feed the kid. We're going to be sitting at home a lot, not sleeping a lot, maybe playing video games. You know what I mean? So it's something to kind of keep in mind is the it's anticipation. Anxiety is driven on anticipation and predicting the unknown, and this is unknowable. So can we just sit with this unknown and let that be okay? Sorry, I didn't finish my point. So the third thing is anticipation. And with anxiety, it is usually rooted in something into the future that is unknowable, something that we cannot predict. And for first time fathers, we have nothing to go off of because we haven't done this before, which makes the anxiety higher because we don't know what to expect. Knowing that anxiety is built on this unknowing of the future can just remind us that we need to accept or be open or just kind of remind our brain that we're not going to know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen or what it's going to feel like, although we can kind of have an idea of what to expect as far as mechanically the delivery. Even then we don't know exactly what's going to happen, whether we're going to have a C-section or whatever the case. We're probably not going to sleep good, but we're going to get into a routine eventually, and the unknown will soon pass. Cool. So now we have our 3. And I'm curious. I want to know, now that I'm thinking about it, let me ask Gemini something. Let me move my screen real quick. And then I'm going to ask, I want to ask Gemini, the other Google AI agent. I want to ask it, I like to use Claude and Gemini or Google. The other thing I want to ask is the level of anxiety that people feel from first time. Here, let me just do it. Instead of saying it 5 times. What are the anxiety and stress levels of parents from being first time parents to having their second, third, or even fourth child? Is there a noticeable or measurable difference in the worry, stress, and anxiety they feel leading up to the birth of their first child, or the child versus, during the labor and after, and all that stuff of being new parents versus parents that have done this several times already? I would imagine so. I imagine because, you've done it like anything else. All right, here we go. Hold on. I see we're cutting off the screen here. All right, while first-time parents face the highest learning curve anxiety, actual chronic stress often peaks with the third child before surprisingly dipping with the fourth. The a large survey of over 7,000 mothers found that parents of 3 children report the highest stress. I'm talking about during the pregnancy. Research that the first-time parents worry about survival. Will the baby stop breathing? Second-time parents face a higher incidence of prenatal depressive symptoms. I guess I wasn't very specific. Let me ask again. I guess I'm really just wondering levels of anxiety of kind of knowing what to expect for the father and mother leading up to the delivery and just caring for the child in the first couple weeks. That's what we're talking about here. What's going on and talking about the fourth child and how they're more depressed. And it's like, okay. Okay, this is what I was more after. Anxiety in the delivery room in the first few weeks is significantly higher for first-timers due to the unknown. But second-time parents face a unique guilt and logistics stress the first-timers don't experience. That probably because you have a second kid now. Or you still got the other one. So you're like, oh, I got to spend time with them. I got to do this. The first week, preparedness gap. In studies of early postpartum anxiety, only 21% of first-time fathers report feeling very well prepared at the time of birth. Yeah, who the hell would say that they're prepared? Wow, good for them. Compared to nearly 90% of experienced fathers. Oh, wow. So fathers that have done this before, 90% of them say, like, I'm good to go. So there you have it. It's just the thing you haven't done before, like jumping off a high dive. If you've done it and you know what the experience is like, it's like, all right, I can get down with it. But if you don't, you're scared. And it's like, even if you conceptually understand what's going to happen. So it's like I said earlier, you can conceptually understand like the delivery, going to have probably a crappy sleep night there at the hospital in that little shitty futon they got for you. And I'm 6'2", so my feet will probably be hanging over the edge or whatever. And then, taking baby home, you'll just sit there with her or him and feed them and clean their, shit diapers. And that's it. I mean, that's literally probably what's going to happen conceptually. In the same way you jump off a high dive, you are going to splash into that water. Unless a stork or pigeon comes by and picks you up. But, yeah, like you get it conceptually, but it doesn't always mean that because you haven't experienced it, you don't have the experience mapped out within your brain is what I'm trying to say and failing. At least that sounds in my head. So this gap translates to significantly higher states of anxiety, moment-to-moment panic during the first 14 days at home. The second baby bonding paradox. Mothers often experience a specific spike in anxiety during the second pregnancy called maternal fetal relationship anxiety. It isn't a fear of the baby dying, but a fear that they won't be able to love the second child as much as the first, or that they're betraying their firstborn. Wow. Research shows a high correlation between partners' moods in the first week. While mothers typically score higher on the postpartum blues, fathers actually report higher postpartum highs. Really? Huh. During those first few days. During those first few days, the mothers do. Well, I think mothers are exhausted and they're dealing with the hormone dump as well. While first timers worry about how to care for a child, the mechanics of a diaper or a latch. Second timers, higher stress, divided attention. Basically, you got a couple kids. 2026 study, over 1 million fathers found that paternal anxiety depression symptoms often decrease during pregnancy and immediately after birth, but then spike significantly at the 1 year mark, long after the initial new parent stress has faded. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, I think for me, it's really about and it's so stupid. Like I said, I'm not even doing the delivery, but for whatever reason, the delivery that's what gets me. I don't know why. I think it's just like it's because it's an intense moment, maybe. Um, yeah, but I just that's what gets me. So I guess that's another thing is kind of figure out what moment. So let's ask that. Yeah. Um, Another thing to keep in mind of, maybe not necessarily a strategy per se, but uh, identify, are there any things in particular that you are afraid of? What is causing this anxiety? Is there anything specific, or is it just a general sense of not knowing what to expect from any part of it? For me, it's the delivery. It's just that moment. But at the same time, I think about it, and it might not be so bad. So it's just you have to pinpoint what it is that is causing this. If you can. Not necessarily you will always find it, or like there's a specific reason, but just see if there is something. Yeah. Cool. I think it's talking, and that's why it looks like whoa. Whoops. Oh, yeah, we'll go with that. All right, what else is there? Yeah, another one I can think of is that this is impermanent. This is temporary, and in 6 months' time or however long, you'll be into your routine, you'll be used to it, you'll be comfortable, and it'll be business as usual. And this will pass. You can get through this in the same way if you've gone through every other difficult thing in life. It just you can do it. For me, that's an important one. Oh, why did it not do it? Oh no. Hold on. Let me pause. I'll do it real quick. All right. It was actually fine. I just needed to refresh it. Yes. So, yeah, so what do we have so far? We have anxiety is completely normal. Allow it to be there. Don't resist it. You are the support role. We are helping. We are going to just be there to coach, support. It's rooted in not knowing. Identify any triggers. Is there anything specific? And remember that this is all going to pass. So another thing that I think is good to a degree. I always say I don't want to make a habit of this, but then it comes back up. So clearly a habit has formed. But I think something that does give a good perspective is, and it sounds terrible, but it works on the brain. It does. Is knowing that people that sounds bad, are going through worse things. Like there are much harder things to deal with than being a support person for your wife or for your partner, whoever. I mean, yeah, it's because it's like, okay, when we have these kind of thoughts and worry. Here, let me write that down. That's another one you need to tackle is thoughts. Thoughts and emotions and not reacting to them as much. We'll get to that though. So when we have all these anxious thoughts and creates the emotions and just the natural jitters we have, and they feed on each other, right? We create a narrative of this situation that hasn't happened. We create this phantom event in our mind that has not taken place yet in reality. And then this event, the more The more anxiety and stuff we give it, it gets bigger and bigger in our minds. It becomes more huge, it becomes this massive entity that just feels so overwhelming. And so, a good thing to do is to make a relative comparison. Make a comparison to it to get some relative perspective. In the same way, if I said I have this massive phone, it's huge, you can barely lift it up. I don't know how you're going to be able to use text on it. And if you tried to lift it, your hand will break and it will fall to the center of the earth. And then you have that idea in your mind, and then you get perspective on it. Now you see it next to everything else, and you're like, oh, well, that ain't so bad after all. So that's the idea. And so I want to do some research before we add it to our list, because I think this one is a little more helpful to see if you kind of understand the science behind it. So when it comes to an anxious situation, I find it can be beneficial to remind yourself of other situations that people may be going through that are much more difficult. And although that sounds selfish or a need to compare someone else's suffering, it also puts your situation into a comparison that what you're going through is not nearly as bad as what your mind is narrating about it. And can you give us some of the science behind why this works? For me, I think it's often because you have something to compare it to, and it just gives it perspective, while if you were siloed with just your own problem, you just don't have a sense or a reference point. I imagine that's it. When you compare your struggle to someone facing greater hardship, you're using a psychological regulator called downward social comparison to recalibrate your brain's threat assessment. The perspective pivot. Research shows that evaluating someone in a worse position activates the brain's ventral striatum, the reward center, which paradoxically dampens the activity of your amygdala. So that's what's going. It's so crazy to me. Real quick, it's just I am so fascinated by brain science. And it can be a great tool, at least it is for me, to know what parts of your brain are activated at certain times through whatever situation, whether it's anxiety or anything, dealing with another kind of problem, erectile dysfunction, whatever problem you are going through. I don't know why erectile dysfunction. I don't have that. Not that it matters, but I do not. Anyway, whatever shit you're going through, your brain is doing something. Parts of your brain are being activated. And knowing about that depersonalizes the situation. It's like, oh, this is the way I am. Oh, this is what I'm going through, and it just feels so dark. Like, no, there are like parts of your computer that are firing, and we can activate certain parts and shut other parts off a bit if we kind of learn the neuroscience. That's what I think. And not neuroscience, just like learning like this shit, like one or two sentences. To me, seems helpful. So yeah, we activate the ventral striatum when you do this kind of downward social comparison, and that dampens the activity of the amygdala, which is what's firing off that anxiety. Humans are biologically wired to determine their status. They're determine their status and safety through social benchmarking, seeing how you measure up. By finding a reference point that makes your current situation look survivable, you essentially trick your nervous system into lowering its cortisol output. Psychologists find that our sense of satisfaction isn't based on absolute conditions, but on the gap between our reality and our expectations. Yes, we create this gap between our expectations, the thoughts, the future thinking in that situation, that phantom phone, versus the reality of it. Seeing a more difficult path shrinks that gap, making your own problem feel much more manageable rather than terminal. Yeah, while it feels like a selfish act, this process often triggers cognitive empathy, which forces the brain to move out of the self-focus. That's the other point. Move out of the self-focus. Self-focus ruminative loop of anxiety into a more analytical, outward-facing mode of thinking. Because anxiety makes us feel so isolated. It makes us feel like we're alone. It makes us feel like the situation is it. That's all there is. That's all there ever is. And so while it does feel selfish because you're using someone else's suffering, it almost takes you out of your own ass and remember that other people have problems. And it makes yours seem way less significant. But then for me also, it makes me feel like empathetic, like, damn, people are going through that. It's not like, oh, thank God other people are going through worse. No, it's not like that. It's just like shit. It just puts it into perspective. Like I'm being a little bit of a selfish cunt right now. Like, you're fine, dude. You're gonna be okay. This is a beautiful thing. We created life, and it's amazing. Whew, I'm about to get emotional. It's just doing these things. Just so I needed this. I needed this video. I needed to do this because that drink and all that, it just threw me for a loop. And I'm just going to the strategies that I know to calm my ass back down so I can be my best self for my wife and for my little girl. Because that's the most important thing. And that's, yeah. When she comes out, man, it's a wrap. Any fear for a moment is going to be washed away with just love and gratitude. All right. Woo. Didn't mean to get sappy on y'all, but shit. All right. Okay. So the other thing was the perspective. Let's add that to the list because I do think that's valuable. Examples too. We can think of. That's bad to say, but like here, I'll write it here in a second. So we have this idea. Well, I was gonna copy and paste it, but I could just say it. The next point is using social downward comparison to put your situation into perspective. When we look at the hardship of others, that gives a direct comparison or relativity to what we are going through. Now, while this may seem selfish on the surface, it often takes us out of our own isolated anxiety heads, remembering and being empathetic and compassionate to people's problems who are going through much far worse things. And then it also deactivates the amygdala and your own stress response. I like that one. It keeps doing that, but I think I just need to refresh. See? Euclidean. I hope it didn't write Euclidean. Yeah, downward social comparison. All right, I got it. Cool. Now look at our list. It's growing, man. And these are our tools. This is in our tool belt. Remembering all this shit. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to get through it. It's going to be fine. All right, let's keep going. All right, the next thing is the thoughts and emotions. I think that is a good one. Hold on. I really need to figure out a way to show both sides of the screen, like my show notes, excuse me, and then the research agent, like the AI stuff that's generated. It can be helpful to see both. If anyone ever does watch this, let me know an opinion. Mom, if you make it this far, let me know. She won't be this far. All right. What was I doing? Ask about. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Actually, I thought of a couple things. So, real quick, another thing to just remember is to be aware of the anxious thoughts. Be aware of the anxious thoughts, the anxious emotions, what you're feeling, and let them be there. But it also doesn't hurt to maybe think a positive thought. to, and you don't have to be, what's the word? Follow this by law by any means. But the idea is that if, like, oh no, what's going to happen? Be aware of it, call it out, anxious thought, label it out, like just say to yourself, anxious thought. Boom. As soon as we do that, you create a little bit of space, a little bit of separation from that thought so you can see it more clearly. So that's always good. Second thing, same thing with emotions. You feel like, ooh, I'm about to shit myself, or oh, this is, that feeling, anxious feeling, worrisome feeling. Doing that creates space, whether it be thoughts and emotions. And it's important to know that because they feed on each other. Just like with my weed story, I had the emotion first. So now I have this playground of anxiety. And so because I'm on that kind of energetic frequency of anxiety, what comes with it? Anxious thoughts. Anxious thoughts, they feed back the emotion gets stronger, and then what comes back? Anxious thoughts. And it can just go in this cycle. So being aware of the anxiety thought cycle is a important one. Be aware of the anxious thoughts / emotion loop that feed on each other. This can be a significant contributor to our overall worry, and just being aware of this pattern, to label our thoughts, to label our emotions as they happen, gives us a little bit of space from them to possibly starve the worrisome cycles. Cool. I don't know why it just stops wherever you are. Like, just show the whole damn thing, and it's gonna spit it out too. No, it's gonna go slow, take its time. All right. Next, what do we got next? Talked about thoughts and emotions. Another one. Okay, this one. Should we do that one now? It doesn't matter. We'll do the next one. So another one that I think of is a figure. Like, there's certain people that are just genuine badasses, right? Like you got I don't know if you know, but like David Goggins, the hard ass Navy SEAL. Now he might be, some of y'all might think he's like toxic masculinity or whatever, but he's a tough guy, and for me, looking at tough things, it kind of goes back to the social regulation thing of like comparing yourself to someone else. Like for me, David Goggins, Khabib Nurmagomedov, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he is a Russian retired MMA fighter. Super hard ass. I mean, he grew up in Dagestan, Russia. A hard place to live. He literally there's video clips of him wrestling bears. I shit you not. He wrestled bears as a kid. I'm gonna have to play a clip of that real quick because it's just incredible. Literally, as a kid, he's wrestling a goddamn bear in the mountains of Russia. Normal Wednesday. Hold on. Why did I type in forest? Bear, wrestle bear as kid. Here we go. Insane, bro. All right. Damn it. Clicked the wrong button. All right, ready? Look at this guy. There's Khabib. 1997. It's insane. Anyway, I like to draw from, and like Kobe Bryant. I don't know if you know, but there was another badass thing that he did. I mean, he's done tons of badass things, but he, obviously basketball player, insane work ethic, extremely durable and tough, and he tore his Achilles, right? Where that thing on the back of your foot, that shit right there, that little string thing, he tore that. And apparently it is absolutely excruciating. Not only did he walk off the court on his own, but he made 2 free throws. He made 2 free throws on a torn Achilles. And I'm going to show a part of that because it's just It's incredible. It's incredible what people can do. Where is it? I want to find that one where they were talking about it. Um, Hold on. All right, let's just play it. All right, so there he. I went too quick. So he went down. This was 2013. Damn, April 12th. That was just a week ago. So this is after he torn his Achilles. Completely fine. Nothing on his face. And almost better to show someone else, like that social comparison, to see the difference. Torn Achilles. Knocks it down. The first one. That's crazy, bro. Kobe was my boy. I was always a big fan as a kid. Huge fan. Lakers jersey. When I was 8 years old, I watched the Lakers first win the championship. Not first win their championship, but the first Kobe and Shaq championship that they won in the year 2000 against the Pacers. Yes, because 76ers were the year after, followed by the Nets. Um, I like to think of these guys, of these heroes, because it does do something. And I think it's part of the reason why those hero movies are so popular. I'm not a big fan of like the Marvel movies myself, but I get it. And when you have a model or an example to look after, to mirror, to emulate, to kind of want to be like, I think there's something there, and I honestly don't know the science on this. So I'm gonna be inquisitive, and I'm going to look it up. So when I go through difficult situations or tough times, for whatever reason, it helps me to think about like David Goggins, comma Habib Nurmagomedov, Kobe Bryant, very just known mentally tough men. And it's like something to emulate, and learning and hearing their stories and reminding myself of what they went through just gives me like a confidence that like I can do this too, or just like we can do it, we can go after it, and to try to just mirror that mindset. What is going on from a neuroscientific standpoint? Because I imagine a lot of people feel this way. Like when people watch the movie Rocky, they feel inspired, and then they see him get hit with so many punches and he stands back up. It makes you feel like you can go through a brick wall. And I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that with these different guys, can make you feel like you can be more than what you are, or tougher than what you are. So when you watch a David Goggins or Kobe, your brain isn't just watching a story, it's performing a high fidelity simulation of their struggle to pre-wire your own resilience. Mirror neurons and implicit training. Your brain contains a specialized class of mirror neurons that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else doing it. When you watch a movie like Rocky, those neurons internally replay the effort and pain, essentially giving your brain rehearsal reps of mental toughness without you having to step into the ring. Wow. So just watching things on Kobe, watching people that motivate you, inspire you in any way, can help you activate these kind of mirror neurons that are reflecting back what you perceive, and then you get these reps of mental toughness just through watching and listening to their stories. I mean, is that not amazing or what? The hub of tenacity. Recent research highlights the anterior mid-cingulate cortex as the brain's willpower hub. It grows in size when people tackle things they don't want to do. Engaging with stories of extreme persistence activates this region, helping you borrow their cost benefiting analysis, making the pain of your own situation feel lower and the reward of finishing feel higher. Psychologists call this phenomenon vicarious resilience. It's the flip side of vicarious trauma. By witnessing others overcome immense adversity, your brain updates its own schema, its own. It's funny how they use that word, schema. That's a word we use in software development. It's like used for database tables. Anyway, of what is survivable, effectively expanding your perceived limits of endurance. The dopamine handoff, seeing a role model succeed, triggers a dopaminergic response in your own ventral striatum. I think that was what was used in the comparison. Comparison of others. See, some part. See, you learn more. You learn like, oh shit, this part of the brain does different things, and it does. It really does. It's like, real quick, I tried to back in the day, like say, oh, the part of the brain does this, and then I would look it up, and it's like, well, it does that, but it also does 1,000 other things. Anyway, so this doesn't make you feel good. Wait, what? This doesn't just make you feel good. This this dopaminergic response in your ventral striatum, it primes your motor system for action, which is why you often feel a physical surge of energy or the urge to go through a brick wall immediately after hearing an inspiring story. So this is what's going in that noggin when we see things, that are inspiring or motivating. And for me, in the case of this anxiety with the birth of a kid, leverage your biology. Use these techniques. We have all these different parts of our brain, and if we use them in different ways, we can tackle the anxiety from different angles. Like the best way to attack an enemy, let's say in olden times, would be to flank them or surround them by all sides, right? So if anxiety is the amygdala, then we need to remember to, look at the hero stories, to, remember our thought cycles and emotions, to remember that the anticipation of it, to remember all these different things, to get a 360-degree view of this anxiety, to entrap it so we can get the best handle on it. I think that's actually a really good analogy, and I want to put that at the top of our list. So let's do that. We're also going to put the hero thing in. So we got two things. We got the hero thing we're going to do, and then we also got the bullet point at the top. Bullet point at the top of our surrounding analogy, and being a holistic picture and having a holistic picture. Okay. And we're almost done. Two more things, and then we're out. I know this is long as shit. Hopefully it's helpful for if anyone is watching. Yeah. So here we are. The next thing to add is looking up or using tough guys or people that really inspire you. For me, that would be a Kobe Bryant, David Goggins, Habib Nurmagomedov, just tough badasses that have gone through difficult things that inspire you, and how this kind of triggers your mirror neurons and helps you be able to get through whatever you're going through yourself by having these examples and people to kind of emulate. Oh my God. Did it not save it? Oh. Wait, did it? No? Are you kidding me? All right, hold on. I'm going to pause it, and so you don't have to listen to it again. Well, it's fine. You can hear it again. It's fine. So let's just do it again. Another point is using mentally tough figures like David Goggins, Kobe Bryant, Habib Nurmagomedov, because they activate your mirror neurons and help you emulate their behavior and just make you feel more like a badass, and that you can get through resilient things yourself, and you're kind of doing the mental reps yourself when you listen or watch their stories. Cool. And then we're going to add the point at the top about being the hero, or not the hero, that was what we just did, of having a holistic picture and like surrounding the anxiety. I want you to put a note at the top of this running list as kind of like a header, an overview of how all of these different things that we've written down help us tackle the anxiety, or specifically the amygdala part of our brain. And it's kind of like we're surrounding the enemy. Not necessarily anxiety is the enemy, but just a visual analogy that the more angles that we approach this anxiety, the better holistic way we have of treating it. And usually a holistic approach where you come at things from multiple angles is the best way to do things. And just using all these tips and tricks to handle or deal with these parts of the brain. Use all the different parts of our brain in different ways that can all help the anxiety we feel. Very good. All right, we're almost done because I have my work meeting here in a second. Okay, two more things. Let us normalize it. So yes, this is an important one. Normalizing. So let's look this up. I want to show y'all something. Hold on. I really need to. So I switch from the full screen here to this by using the keys on the keyboard F1 and F2, like the function buttons. And if you hit F1 to go back to full screen, now watch when I go back, this Chrome help came up. So when you press F1 in Chrome, the help window comes up. So I need to see how to disable that, and I'll do that for you guys before next time if you can. If Chrome lets you, I'm sure you could. But it's just kind of an annoying thing. Anyway, I was going to look up. So now we're going to talk about normalizing it. This is normal, bro. You ain't the first person to have a baby born, and you definitely won't be the last unless a comet or asteroid hits right after your kid's born, and then we're all fucked. But yeah, let's look this up. How many babies are born per day, and how many people have been born so far on Earth in human history? Yeah, I love how it says how many people have been born so far on Earth in human history. It'll get the meaning. Oh my God. Around 363,000 babies are born every day right now, contributing to a massive historical total of roughly 117 billion humans have ever walked the earth. In 2026, the world has seen around 15,000 births every hour. So by the time I've been flapping my gums at the start till now, about 53 minutes in, yeah, probably about 12,000 new babies. 12, that is just crazy. Thousands. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15,000. 4 babies every second. Wow. Because our population exploded so recently, about 7% of every human being who has ever lived is actually alive at this very moment. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. The dead outnumber the living, of course. For every person alive today, there are 14 people who are deceased. It took from the dawn of humanity until 1800 to hit our first billion, but we've added over 7 billion in just the last 226 years. India leads the current with over 62,000 born a day, more than double China or the United States. The point is, guys, that this is normal. It is completely normal and the most natural thing that has ever happened. In the same way I'm talking and here right now, you're here right now, you were born. Your cats, your dogs, your coworkers, the people you don't like, the people you do, your family, your friends, the people that make your favorite video games, the funny people you see on social media, the documentary of the jaguar and the elephant and dolphin. Everything and everyone was born. It's how life works, and it is a amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. So let's write that down. Let's write down our kind of normalization of it. Another thing is to normalize the birth of a child, the birth of any child, and how there have been so many births on the planet. Billions of people are alive today. Billions of people have lived, and it's one of the most natural and normal things to happen. And just because it hasn't happened to this particular person yet, experiencing it, doesn't make it any not less normal and natural. Cool. And then lastly, with that is gratitude. The gratitude and amazement on this new identity. So, and that, well, that's another thing we can talk about too, honestly, is the fear of the new identity. We could go into that. One more thing, and then gratitude. Another thing here. Let's do it. We've got to go kind of quick here. Sorry. Can you go into for new fathers how it's kind of like an identity shift and how that can bring about anxiety, because it's like you don't know how you're going to be. You've been this own person, just worrying about yourself pretty much your whole life. Maybe you've worried about others, but for most people, it's like this identity crisis, like an identity, a shift of who I am. And it's now no longer just about me and my wife, but it's you have this other life form that you care for and that you would die for. And how this identity shift happens for people, and how you can just kind of, how can we get used to it? Get used to it. That was kind of a stupid thing to say, because you get used to it by experiencing it and by living through it. So that was kind of dumb. But psychologists call this transition the matrix from others, but for fathers, it's a profound neurological remodeling where the brain literally reshapes itself to focus from self-preservation to offspring protection. The nurturing brain. Researchers shows that men are deeply involved in caregiving. Their brain exhibit increased activity in the amygdala. It's also used for emotional processing, not just for anxiety. In the oxytocin system, effectively shrinking the psychological space previously reserved for the self. Oh, that's interesting. So, I'm big into spirituality, and they often talk about the concept of the self and the person. So that kind of gets moved away, which I'll be glad I go deeper into my spiritual practice. Oh, new fathers often experience a significant drop in testosterone shortly after the birth, a biological mechanism designed to reduce aggression and risk-taking while increasing empathy and bonding. Well, for people that are anxious, I don't know if that's going to be a concern. Utility gap, where they feel a crushing weight of responsibility to provide and protect, but feel secondary or useless in the early breastfeeding bonding phase. Like you can't do much. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. Experts suggest that the fastest way to stabilize is to stop trying to get back to your old self and instead view the new identity as a software update rather than a system crash. Your old traits still exist, but they are now running on a completely different operating system. So I guess another thing is knowing that we're going to have an identity shift. That for first-time fathers, you are stepping into unknown territory, and it's no longer just be about self-preservation and protecting of your wife. You have a new life that is of the utmost importance, and there's worry and doubt of how you are going to handle that. But at the same time, when you have that physical child, even though you're scared and it does feel like an identity crisis, over time you will get used to it, just like anything else, whether going to school, learning to read, learning to walk, learning to run. The more you do it, the more it becomes normal, the more it becomes part of your identity of who you are. And so it's okay to be worried about this kind of identity crisis because it is a new thing, but it's part of it and you will grow with it. All right. All right, lastly, I really need to wrap up. I'm like literally trying to log into my computer at work right now. I'm sorry. It's very selfish of me, but I do not want to be late to my meeting in 4 minutes. So I need to just make sure my computer is turned on and we're going to be good to go. All right. Yeah, you know what? Let's just leave it at this. Let's leave it at this. I'll create a public link, and I'll put this link in the description. The last thing I want to do then, okay, so if I can put this link in the description, then that means I can go over one last thing, because I was gonna I don't know, screen share show you guys, but just look in the description if you want this. To be grateful. This is amazing. We're literally about to bring new life into the world to raise a child, and yeah, it's scary. We haven't done it before. We're going to go through an identity shift, but it's one of the most normal things we can do. And we're so much tougher than we give ourselves credit for. And we can totally do this. Let's just be aware of the thought loops, the emotions that we feel. And guess what? It is completely normal to be anxious. And when we get into that delivery room, to just be there to support, to be there, and that'll take over. I mean, it ain't about it's not about you, especially when you know your wife or partner's going and like in that pain. You will be there to support and to love through it all. And you know, we're not going to know what happens. We're not going to know, and that's okay to not know. You know, your triggers, that doesn't really flow with how I've been going, but you know, identify your triggers. This is temporary. Just like how you finished high school and you didn't know what was going to happen. It felt weird to grow up and whatever became normal. And this too will become normal and it'll become part of your new identity of fatherhood. And it's one of the most normal things you can do, and to embrace the moment, to cherish it, because you're only going to have a first kid once, you know. So be there. Take in the moment. There's gonna be a lot of tough parts. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be tough, but you can get through it. We are human beings. This has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years as humans, maybe 150,000, but billions of people have been born. You know, everyone has lived a life. You know, people die. We're taking part of the cycle. We're taking part of the circle of life. And it's an ultimate privilege, I believe, to take part of this, to be a human on this planet in the year that we call 2026. And we get to bring new life into the world and help raise the next generation. And that is an amazing thing. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of. And I hope you feel that way as well. Use that guide we made. It'll be in the description. I got to go to my meeting. It's 9:20. Yeah, I got to go. Thank you all so much. We got this. We got it.